Welcome to the subject, proposed 5G in Parish, in the Corfe Parish. My name's Brian Woodman. I'm a resident in Kingston. I'm a professional engineer by sort of trade, semi-retired. I worked in the underwater industry for 40 years, starting my career with BP. So I know a little bit about engineering and not too much about 5G, but know enough to roll out a presentation. Really, this is an awareness presentation to try and bring us, I guess, all up to speed with what's going on and the benefits versus harms. I've got no commercial interest in 5G. I don't work for any telecoms company, but I do have a vested interest in my health and my family's health, and indeed the public's health. So the objectives is really, as that slide said, it's probably one of the most important subjects facing Corfe Parish in the next year. The telecoms company has written to the parish councillors, informing them about upgrading the telecoms tower on Rollington Hill and introducing 5G into the Corfe area. So there's a parish council meeting on this Monday. I'll be talking, I've only got 5 minutes, but I'll be talking through some of these slides. We won't have a projector, but I'll be doing it on paper with them. I will give councillors a copy of these slides at the meeting on Monday. So if anyone's interested on the Monday, do come along. Okay, so what is 5G? Basically, it's one of these things that, because it's invisible, it goes obviously largely unnoticed, but people see the benefits of faster downloads, higher communication, etc., etc. But 5G really is up in the 24 to 300 gigahertz. Currently, 4G is megahertz, so we're going up. We're winding the wick up 1,000 times to get up to this gigahertz frequency. Of course, if you want the benefits of all of this lovely downloads and fast communication, there's a price to pay. So you have to up the power, you have to up the frequency, and get data through the airways. So unlike 4G, 5G is directionally focused. It's like a beam-forming radiation, just like radar and microwave. When you're up in the 300 gigahertz range, you're on the borderline of energy weapon technology, and the military have got some fantastic technology. You might not agree with it, but it can cause sort of physical effects to people: skin tingling, headaches, tinnitus, body warming, without any asset damage. So you can focus these beams on a crowd of people and instantly get crowd dispersal. So the military are using this technology. In some countries, on some of the demonstrations, the police have used that technology on crowd dispersal. So it's a beam-focused technology, extremely high data rates, 1,000 times more than 4G. And this is where we're going towards let's call it the Internet of Things. That tends to be the buzzword. But can you imagine where everything in your life and in the village was connected if it had some electronic circuits in it? And the list is endless. It could be your fridge. Your fridge might be getting low on milk. It could be telling Amazon to deliver more milk, and it would debit your account at the same time, all in milliseconds. So this is the Internet of Things. It sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Personally, I don't sort of subscribe to some of this. I mean, it's nice to download certain things from eBay and things like that, but I don't want drones dropping off medications in my back garden. And it does it in pretty much real time. You can imagine the world that creates, or could create. And of course, the telecoms companies and all the companies involved in this technology, it's great. It's a revenue earner. So commercially, there's a huge market for this. And that's what's really driving it. Now, Rollington Hill, currently that's in the sort of gigahertz range. I think it's 700 in the megahertz range, 700 megahertz. So that will beam signals into Corfe, and when you're up at these extremely high gigahertz frequencies, it's only really over short distances they're effective. So you start to need boosters on lampposts, on the church spire, school buildings, council offices, to keep boosting the signal and get this density of signal. And this is where it becomes quite harmful. You can imagine if your bedroom is right opposite a lamppost and they've installed this lovely 5G transmitter, you're getting radiated straight through your bedroom. So this is what we're entering, and it will be a slowly type of technology. They will upgrade Rollington Hill and then start to introduce these in Corfe. Now, in terms of safety guidelines, the government uses, or they lean upon this. I won't read all this out, but they are using this guidelines. But when you start to talk to the scientists and even some of the doctors about these guidelines, they're not really robust. In fact, when the guidelines are applied, the UK is something like 100 times our safety limits are 100 times some other countries. You take Poland, Russia, they operate at far lower levels and they're using a different set of guidelines. And if for those technically interested, it's measured in basically microwatts per square meter. That's the radiation density. So already we're way up where we really should be compared to other countries. And of course that allows us to do this Internet of Things. You've got these very high data rates. So the first thing the government needs to do is to recognise that they're using guidelines which are really not adequate. So, big question, is it harmful? Let's look at the World Health Organization. They've currently got 5G, as they call it, class 2B, possible cancer agent. Possible, question mark. If you talk to the people in the know, they're saying this is not adequate. They want that changed to probable and certain. In fact, there are studies which have been done. There's lots of studies. We've got a book at the front here with loads of references to studies that have been done. And it's now confirmed that 5G at these very high gigahertz levels are clear evidence of causing cancers and tumours. And we all know, if you read the small print in your mobile phone, well, you might not know this. If you read the small print on your mobile phone that you've just purchased, your, whatever it is, the small print would say, do not hold this close to any body parts, certainly towards your head. Do not hold your mobile phone close to your head for long periods. It will induce cancers. So if you've got a mobile phone, we all have, please use it on either speaker mode or stick a headphone in your ear. Don't use it for prolonged times next to your head. So, no, this is, I've only got into this in the last couple of weeks. Maxine's been giving me tons and tons of information on these technologies. So we've got the information up the front here. There's not been, the telecoms industry certainly have done a lot of research on 5G. They know fully well the benefit versus harms, but they have not released a single study showing the effects of long-term effects on humans. We know it's having an effect on the insect life. We know the effects on bees, on the bee population. It's having a warming effect, and it's starting to change the bees' environment, insects' environment. They're having to cope with this, either cope with this warming effect or move or die. So that's the insect life. Imagine the impact on crops and pollinators. So this is quite shocking, this one. So symptoms of harm. How do you know you've got this sort of symptom? You might just have a headache. You might want to just take a tablet. But 800,000 people in the UK suffer from this. Lots of people don't know they're suffering. You might have tinnitus. You might have all sorts of weird things going on in your body, and you might put it down to other causes. But it's now recognised, but electrosensitivity is now recognised by the WHO and other medical professions that it does cause harm to the body. A lot of people won't know this harm's being done, or this change in their environment. But it's interesting. These are the estimated people. There's probably hundreds of thousands more people. So what are the harms? A lot of neurological harms: depression, anxiety, tinnitus, headaches, memory loss, nosebleeds, skin rashes, cardio damage, fatigue, cancers, and infertility. What a list! It's quite shocking, isn't it, when you look at this? And of course, there's this benefit-harm thing going on. What are the benefits? What are the harms? So a decision needs to be taken. That's why we've got speed limits on roads. You know, you can't keep driving your car at 100 miles an hour. You're going to crash. Well, you can't keep winding 5G up. You can't keep doing this. There's a limit. Now, more study needs to be done to know what the limits are. And so there's a book up there if you're interested on many references. Now, if you now this is quite interesting as well. Thousands of studies show that as DNA and fertility, neurological and cardio damage, references available. Now, the DNA thing is interesting, isn't it? You're adapting to your new environment. The body's adapting to it. We're changing our DNA because of the radiation. And children, certainly with mobile phones, you've got a smaller brain, smaller body mass. You're going to feel these effects more. The immune compromised, your immune system is already fighting other things. The last thing you want is to irradiate the body as well. And elderly people are especially at risk. So those are some of the harms, and you might recognise some of these in your life as it stands. And please don't sleep with the Wi-Fi on. Switch it off before you sleep. Try and stay away from these devices. They're nice to have, but keep them at safe distance. Get yourself a little meter. Measure some of this stuff. It's quite shocking what you're going to find. Now, legal. Just have a sip of water. Legal is quite an interesting thing. There's nothing new in the legal sense. The first court case was against, in the UK, was against the Gateshead City Council. They started to introduce 5G to all the lampposts in Gateshead, and there was one guy who lived up there. He's ex-military. He knows a lot about this technology, and he said this is not right. And it turns out, cut a long story short, it turns out that a court case was spearheaded, and they won the case against the Gateshead City Council. And the Gateshead City Council were failing to do their job. They were failing to inform the public about the harms. Okay, we can all take a decision if we've got all the information. If you haven't got the information, you can't take that decision. So they were failing in their duty. And that's one of the things I'm going to tell the parish council on Monday. It's not a threat, it's an obvious thing. If you're representing the residents, you need to be doing your job, you need to be informing people. Of course, the telecoms companies, this is the dilemma, the telecoms companies it's not in their interest to tell the parish council about all the harms. We, as a community, have to assess those harms ourselves and take a decision, but at least be given all the facts. Now, moving on, there's a legal case against the UK government. Michael Mansfield, QC, in February. It's been delayed for some reasons, but it will be in February. He's taking the government to court. There's a bunch of things he's taken the court on: failing to do this, failing to do that, failing to use the right guidelines. So we'll see where that goes. This one. Anyway, I won't go through all of this. There's groups of people, there's groups of solicitors involved in legal cases all over the UK. It's starting to get quite a lot of inertia, and rightly so. This is another scary one. Health insurance and property values. Lloyd's of London will not underwrite personal or public injury insurance caused by electromagnetic fields and non-ionizing radiation. And non-ionizing radiation is basically radio waves in megahertz or gigahertz. Now, Lloyd's consider it too risky. So if you made a claim, or if your Bupa policy, you made a claim and it was due to harm, they say no. We're not paying out on that. It's too risky. Now the question then, you then ask yourself, what do Lloyd's know about this technology, right? What do they know? I don't know the answer to that. But they know something. So check your, if you've got private health, do check the small print. There's also examples where property values in the UK, house prices have seen a reduction due to not only the physical thing of the mast going up, what an eyesore, but the close proximity, again, insurance-based, the close proximity to 5G, it's affecting premiums, it's affecting the house value. So it's affecting your property prices. You can imagine with the situation in Corfe village if 5G starts to be replicated on lampposts. So on Monday, I'll be running through. I've only got 5 minutes, but I'll be running through some of these things. This is recommending actions for we're not sort of barging in there and saying, this is what you need to be doing. We're saying there's some recommended actions that we think you should be taking. The first one is to basically look at the telecoms company about how do they audit their technology. It turns, when you look at some of the stuff that Maxine sent me, it turns out that the companies will audit and certify their structure, their technology, and then switch it on, then that's it basically. So it's a kind of a check of the installation. It's not a constant check of the operation of that equipment. Number two, ask DC, basically Dorset Council, because obviously Parish has to coordinate with Dorset Council. Ask them who checks the interference and hotspots in these towns and villages between all these technologies, 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi, smart meters. In fact, let's call it electro-pollution smog. We have a rivers authority for checking pollution. Why don't we have an electro-pollution authority? Well, we know why, because the telecoms companies don't want that. They don't want to cause anxiety and alert people to this. But that's an interesting one, isn't it? We're being beamed from all sorts of directions. Smart meter. If you've got a smart meter at home, do get yourself a little checking device and go around your house, because that's constantly doing handshakes with other smart meters and your Wi-Fi. I would say wrap it in Bako foil and try and protect yourself a little bit, but there you are. Now here's an interesting one. Ofcom. There's a conflict of interest with Ofcom. Ofcom receives money for licensing frequencies. They're selling basically the airways. They're making money on bandwidth. So it's in their interest to earn money. We don't get to see any of that, of course. But they're also giving the approvals for the telecoms companies to use these guidelines. And these guidelines we know are inadequate. So we've got a bit of poacher gamekeeper going on with Ofcom. Who's looking after our interests? At the moment, we are. People in the room. Number 4, request that Dorset Council do an independent, nothing organised by telecoms, an independent public safety risk assessment. Let's get an independent body to go through some of these references and make sure that we're getting factual information about the harm, well, not the harm, about the risk. What is the risk? You know, if I stood 2 meters to this 5G transmitter all day long, will I be harmed? Probably yes. If I stood 300 meters away, what's the risk? You know, these things need to be looked at. Request that Dorset Council and telecoms companies show proof of commercial public liability insurance against harm from radiation. Okay? They're sticking this device on the hill. How are they going to assure us that if you fell sick and you wanted to make a claim, that you could make a claim against it? But here's the dilemma. Lloyd's will not underwrite it. So I suspect there is no public liability insurance. Maybe if the mast fell down and killed somebody, yes. But the radiation, no. Number 6, this is really the duty for the parish council to inform the community regarding this benefit versus harms risk. What are we getting into? You know, let's put the information on the table. Let's take a decision. Is 4G adequate? Do we all want this Internet of Things going on? People are in two camps, aren't you? You want, I use a mobile phone. Lots of people do. So you want the technology, but if it's going to irradiate my body and give me cancer, no. I want to put it in a cupboard somewhere and turn it off. Okay, so that's the that's the dilemma we've got as members of the public. And that's all I've got, actually. So there's no way I can get through that in 5 minutes with the parish council on Monday. I'll have to sort of go for the big ticket items in that.